November 29, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using the NinjaTrader 8 platform. This is how I saw the charts today. There was a little more volume than yesterday, but there weren't that many clean setups that I could find. Today's trading was a little more challenging for me. I only took one trade early on and I lost on that. Then I just kind of sat and watched throughout the day and I couldn't really find any convincing setups that I felt comfortable with. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't setups there. It's just the ones that I thought were good or worth taking, I just couldn't find very many. Looked like it just made one big push up, and there was only one piece of economic data that came out, which is around 5:30, which is about right here. But as you can see, the market was already pushing up before the economic data came out, and once it did, which is the preliminary GDP numbers, it kind of chopped sideways and continued up, then made two big legs selling off. And there weren't too many setups, as I said, I could find. And I did sit and watch, and there was a bunch of orders that I placed, but I canceled them when the setup eventually didn't look like it was going to play out. And so I'm going to go through kind of what I saw today. So this is the pre-market highs and the pre-market lows. At one time, I had the pre-market lows kind of where this blue box was, kind of right here, because it looked like there was more confirmed touches down here, but I eventually dragged it down to here when it looked like this didn't really come into play or really matter at all. You can see maybe toward the end of the day, it kind of mattered up here, but there wasn't really that much respect paid to this price level that you could really justify taking a trade. So then I just eventually stuck the pre-market highs and pre-market lows kind of where they should have been. So this is the pre-market. Prices are rallying up. I don't trade the pre-market. It's chopping sideways. It's a very tight range because there's only 4 points. And then once the market opened, it started looking. It moved up, and I knew there was some kind of channel here, but I wasn't sure what was going on here. I had some kind of trading range here, but it started to break out. There was no breakout pullback. It was just a breakout. There was no failure on it either. Prices started moving up. And I was playing with this yellow channel quite a bit throughout the day. Eventually ended up with this one here, which kind of has the support 1 touch, 2 touch. I guess you could say 3 touch, and then 1 touch, 2 touch. And I'm watching, and this is actually the first setup that I actually took, and the only setup I took, which I lost on. I saw a new high here. It came out of the green channel. It broke out, made one attempt up. It consolidated and got really choppy. And so when I actually created this doji candle, for whatever reason, I got anxious and I jumped in one tick, like right at the highs, because what happened was when this opened, it opened right here and never came back to touch the EMA. It bounced around. It actually hit the high, and I thought, well, obviously it's going to move all the way up to here. So when I entered right here, which is at 45.92, I was just going to think about getting a quick 1 point scout at 45.93. So 45.92, 45.93 is about right here. And I thought, okay, well, that's enough for a quick scalp. It immediately flashes down. So right where it closes, right where it opens, and it comes down. And my stop loss is down here. And of course, it hits it. So I looked at it in hindsight, and this trade shouldn't have happened because I shouldn't have taken it on these terrible looking signal bar. This signal bar is just a doji. And not only is it a doji, it's a very neutral doji. I could have made an argument if it closed up high like a hammer candle, but it didn't. So I just jumped in out of, I think, being too anxious, thinking, oh, I don't want to miss this ride. Because obviously at the time I was thinking, well, made one leg up, consolidated, it's about to make the second leg up. And it broke out of the green channel, made one push up. This is its second attempt to push up. So I didn't want to miss out on that. And lesson learned, it's not that I shouldn't have tried to miss out on it. I should have waited for a confirmation or a better setup because this is clearly not a good setup. Prices then continue chopping, goes into this blue trading range, just consolidates. I saw this as a new high, first entry long, second entry long. Now this is a possible trade. It had 2 legs back, so you look like from the high, excuse me, from the high, it made one push back, push up, and then a second leg back. It's a little bit tight, but then this is a pretty decent signal bar. It is at the bottom of this range that I thought I was playing in, and there's enough room to the high. But I was just coming off this loss, and it's only 10 minutes later. I didn't regather my composure to really take a trade and get ready. I think what I would have done had this actually closed a little bit less bearish, Probably would have entered like one tick above or right at the same highs. And as you can see, that would have worked out. But I let this trade affect me more than it should have and just accepted the loss, but I kind of dwelled on it and missed out on this potential trade. Price then continue moving up. At this point, I like that this yellow channel might be capturing where the price action is. It is kind of wide though. I'm just watching. Prices then continue moving down. When it gets to here, I'm wondering if there's going to be a bounce because technically there's a new high here. It's the first entry long pulls back. Second entry long was made here, but on the bigger picture or on a visual, I thought it was like one leg down, push up, second leg down. So I was not discounting the fact that there could potentially be a bounce here. Plus, it's near the bottom of this range, but I wasn't going to get try to anticipate the move before it happens and jump in on a trade. I needed to see it actually form. But then it broke through and it broke through decisively. So then I knew, okay, there's no long here. I need to just wait. It broke through and out this green down channel and it kept going. And I don't see any clean entries and just kept moving. Then it hits this consolidation area. There's a first break of the green channel. There was an overshoot here. So I was wondering if it was going to overshoot on this side, but it didn't happen. So when this occurred, I was thinking, okay, maybe there's going to be another push up, something like one leg up, pull back a second leg up here. Maybe they hit the EMA and then get rejected down. Or if the yellow channel's still in play, it might make one push up, break, and depending if it broke all the way through the EMA, then it might want to test the high of this yellow channel. Unfortunately, none of that happened, so I just sat here and watched. Consolidates in this blue channel. This blue channel is actually a little bit tighter. Actually had it up here at one time. Broke out. I was thinking it was a failed breakout, but this is a very, very small range. And I don't want to try to trade this because who knows if this is going to act as a true resistance. And the range itself is within, well, pretty close to how much I would scalp. So something to just leave alone. I did see a second entry short here. Saw a new low here. It's the first entry short, second entry short. This is what I call an almost setup because it almost was a okay setup. What I didn't like is this signal bar is bullish and it closed at the very top. Top of that, the trigger bar didn't, it kind of touched the EMA, but I wanted a clean rejection. The other thing is I was playing this as the top of the range as a potential resistance, but then it looked like it was creating a secondary resistance down here. So that was a little confusing. At this time, I also dragged this down to about right here, thinking this could be the bottom of the range. And if that were the case, when I was looking at this, I thought, well, this is the middle of this range itself. So it already pushed through the halfway point of what I was thinking was a range. So there's not much prospect, of pushing all the way down to here yet, because I don't have enough information. So this is an almost setup. Had this signal bar actually closed a little bit lower or bearish, then I think I would have had an order ready. And then when this was forming and it engulfed it, I probably would have tried to enter to try to scalp out down here. But none of that happened, so I had to leave it alone. Prices then broke through, kept moving down. It chops around. EMA, it looks like it's holding prices down. It looks like it's kind of going up this green up channel, but I don't see a good clean second entry. Technically, you have a new low here, first entry short, second entry short, then there's a failure. When I saw this in real time, I was debating putting an order in and getting it ready, but I don't like the fact that the overall bias now has changed from bullish to bearish. So you do have the midline of the pre-market highs and lows, but remember at the time I wasn't sure, so I had a secondary, range right here, which pushed this midline a little bit higher. So it was a little bit hard for me to trust anything at this point, especially seeing this, then this as a potential failure. Technically, it hasn't failed yet because if the next candle, because this one never broke up higher, ticks one tick lower, then this is a confirmed second entry short, no failure has occurred. So I definitely had to wait. And then when this occurred, then I just wasn't really sure what I was, where prices were going. So I had to just kind of sit on my hands. Prices then continue moving up. It breaks back down, pops around, hits this other consolidation range, and things are just getting confusing now because there's a new high, first entry long. Technically, there's a really nice signal bar for second entry long, but it's in the middle of this range that I thought prices were in. And overall, things were just a little very congested. All the candles today were very tiny. Well, not tiny, but they were very tight. And they're just side by side. So there was no big clean breakouts that I found to have good entries on. So I just pretty much sit and wait for pretty much the rest of the day. Prices then continue moving up. It hits what I think is this potential top. So I'm thinking maybe this original trading range, the top resistance might extend out further and it could be like a very big wide trading range. It looked like I had a fail breakout here, but I didn't see a good clean entry because technically you have a new low here, first entry short, second entry short, then you have a third entry short. Prices then continue chopping. It goes down, and then I had this red line here, not as a channel at one time, but it was more as a resistance, and I actually had it a little bit more shallow. Try to go here, then I adjusted it down to here, but I didn't have it as a channel yet because I couldn't quite get the bottom to fit clean. I could have an overshoot here and an overshoot here, and I didn't like that. I drew it down to here and had only one overshoot, but I wasn't too sure about that either. I thought I could encase it all here, but I only have really one touch point, no real confirmation. So I was checking more against the top as a resistance for a potential short setup. Prices continue moving down, falls into this green channel, breaks out, consolidates, chops around some more. So I actually kind of had a little trading range right here. There was no clean entry that I could find to take, trade with. Plus, it's already pushing towards the lows and also the pre-market lows. So at this point, I did have the pre-market lows originally here, and I dragged it down to here because I was thinking this is already violating the pre-market low that I thought maybe was here. And I saw it breaking through, so then I actually deleted it or actually adjusted it downwards, and I thought, okay, maybe there's going to be some kind of reaction here. But it kind of reacted, but there was no setup here. They do have a new low, first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short. This is the signal bar. You could say this is also the signal bar, but it's above the EMA. And if it closed below the EMA, I feel a little more confident, but it closed above. And then the subsequent trigger candle also closed right at or above. So it left it a little confusing because it's also playing up this green channel. So you think it might make a new high here. So it did make a new high. So if you went short, probably would have got caught out. Chops around. This is just ugly price action right now. It goes up this yellow channel, which was only a trend line support at this point. I wasn't sure where the top of this yellow channel was. I originally had it here, saw too many violations, dragged it up to here, still had some violations, kind of ended up right here. Breaks out, continues chopping, and I'm thinking, okay, I need to adjust it one more time. But here, there's not as many touch confirmations, so I was only giving more respect down as the support, at the support, as opposed to the resistance up here. Prices then continue chopping. I mean, this is just very, very congested, very ugly price action. I don't see anything that I like. You technically have a new high here, first entry long. You have a second entry long here, and you don't technically have a failure yet. You still don't have a failure, but then you have like a first entry long, second entry long, third entry long. But these two candles are all inside the range of this candle. So that makes it a little confusing, a little dangerous to trade. Another one, and it finally flashes up. It's not to say this couldn't have flashed down. So to say I would have taken a trade is very far-fetched. To say that if you got this trade, I mean, I don't see what kind of reasoning I could find to justify why I would take a trade. But if you happen to get this trade, that's like pretty good for you. Prices then continue chopping. It falls into this range, and it's again just very ugly price action. There's a new low here, first entry short, second entry short. So technically, here's the signal bar. As almost not an almost trade, but I also had an order ready here, thinking, okay, maybe it touched the high, it's going to push back down, but it was above the EMA. I just wasn't sure, and previous candles were just very indecisive. I mean, it was very bullish here, neutral to bearish here, and kind of neutral here. So it just wasn't giving me a lot of warm and fuzzy. It's also coming off an overshoot, so I was thinking there's potential of another overshoot here. So when I saw this second entry short, it was a little bit conflicting, thinking of going short, but thinking of the possibility of going long. So it's just a little bit unclear for me. Prices then continue moving. I saw this as a second entry short here. It's a new low, first entry short, pull back. It flashes up, comes right back down, and creates a second entry short. This is almost set up because I wanted this to break below the EMA to feel a little more comfortable, or at least break below this candle, because as you see, it matched this candle. This candle shows that all the buyers are coming in. They got stopped out by this potential range, but it closed at the very high. The next candle opened. It did a bunch of things. It flashed up and came crashing back down, but it didn't close at the very bottom. At the last moment, it looked like there was a little bit of buying power to push it back up by one tick. So that gave me a little bit of pause. Had this actually pushed one tick below this one, then I would have felt a little more confident taking a short. So you wait, and then you see this lower high. So I thought this is actually a possible trade. because it's confirming the second entry short, new low, first entry short, second entry short, confirmed second entry short for lower high, resisted by the top of this range. Pretty decent signal bar, and it looks like it's moving back into the range itself. So knowing all that, I saw that, but I didn't feel comfortable, so I just didn't take the trade. I think it was just probably mental fatigue because I just been watching this all day, and it was just some really whipsaw, choppy, not whipsaw so much, but it was just slow price action, and it wasn't the cleanest. So I just ended up sitting on that one. Prices then continue moving. It looked like it would have worked, but also the size of the candle is rather large because this candle is about 2.5 points. So to go one tick above, that adds another point. So it just felt a little bit too risky. The candle is just too big for me. Prices then continue moving down, falls in what I thought was a green range. It breaks out, consolidates, makes the other side overshoot, but then it doesn't really decisively move. It kind of consolidates some more. It does a slow grind up. I find this is a potential resistance. It looks like it's respecting it. I wasn't sure where the bottom support was. I had it here at one time, treating this as an overshoot. Also debated having it all the way down here, but I ended up just kind of having it roughly about right there. There's one touch. Looked like it was going to touch a second time. It obeys and respects it, consolidates, kind of has a small overshoot here, chops around. It's just not very clean price action. Consolidates again in this range, and it's just getting confusing. This blue line and this blue line, just for reference, if I'm watching this in the future, there's one leg down, consolidation, a second leg down. It made the measure move. There was a little bit of respect paid. It bounced off, but it didn't really do much. And then this is also one leg down, kind of pull up, and the second leg down. So that's where these two blue lines were. I was kind of looking for measured moves and seeing if there was a reaction. And in this one, there certainly was. But it's a new high, first entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long and a third entry long. So if this actually looked a little cleaner, I might have debated taking an entry here, but it is counter trend to the overall bias because look, it goes downtrend, consolidation, another downtrend. So it would have been, I think, a little bit risky for me to try to take this. The same thing here is a downtrend, consolidation, downtrend, and it respected it somewhat, except it was below, whereas this one was sitting right above it. So in either case, I saw that, but I didn't take a trade or felt comfortable taking a trade. The prices just consolidate and then it goes into the close. So today wasn't that much better than yesterday, and it wasn't that much better than Monday. So these past 3 days have been, I don't know, kind of not the best trading conditions in my opinion. It was challenging for me today just because it felt like there's a lot of little fake outs and little things like tight price action, meaning candles are side by side. They didn't break out and move very clean. And candles did take a little longer to close than I rather prefer. But overall, yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm going to end the day red on losing one trade. But in all honesty, I don't know that I would have taken any other trades in this except for maybe the second entry long here. I wasn't mentally prepared. And maybe this lower high here. But even then, this is kind of late in the day of watching this print, and this I just wasn't didn't have my composure ready to quickly reverse my thinking and just well not reverse my thinking, but just get back into the trade, which is something I need to work on. So hopefully that was helpful.